It's a pleasure to follow along from the former Speaker, Dr. Ashraf Chowdhury, and his services to the Primary Production Select Committee. I have to say, Mr. Speaker, will be sadly missed. He is one of very few agricultural scientists that have come into the Parliament in the time I've been here and has made a substantial contribution not only to this bill but to the Primary Production Select Committee in the whole time that I've chaired it, and prior to that on occasions when I served on it. So I thank him for his contribution. Can I also, I don't intend to relitigate all of the comments that the Minister went through, because I think he pretty much summed up the history of this and where we're at with it. But there are some points that I would like to make, and before I do that, I want to thank the officials and the Minister for the way that they've worked with us in this process, particularly the officials, because we certainly grilled them on a number of issues and made life fairly challenging for them while we went through the formation and amendments that the Minister spoke of in his comments. Can I say, Mr. Speaker, that New Zealand has never been better placed than it is right now to exploit the opportunities of exporting high-quality, traceable, sustainably farmed, and I emphasise the last bit, sustainably farmed protein foods to the world. And the world has never been more receptive to the idea of buying at a reasonable price, which doesn't make us a low-cost producer but a niche producer and marketer of high-quality food to the world. We've never had a greater opportunity. And so hand in hand with that goes the responsibility of having a traceability mechanism that is based in modern technology and has integrity. And that sort of goes to the hub, I guess, of some of the major concerns that were raised through the submission process in the Select Committee. The Federated Farmers raised with us substantial concerns about the choice of technology, low frequency versus high frequency technology that may be employed. And so as a committee, we weren't going to try and second guess which technology may be the best in the future or not, but to make sure that the bill itself was enabling so that the market could actually determine through technological development, I guess, which technology would be better suited and most cost effective. So the Federated Farmers submission was well received, despite the fact that they indicated at the end of it that they weren't entirely happy with the direction that we were heading in. And I think to some extent that concern has now started to fade away a little bit, because high frequency technology will be able to be used if that is in the end proven to be the best technology. We called in an expert to the Select Committee to give us advice on this, and I have to say he didn't in any way at all allay our fears that we were going down potentially a wrong path. In fact, quite the opposite. Might have suggested to us that high frequency technology, as the Feds were submitting, potentially may be the way of the future. So that is something that we've yet to find out, I guess, as time goes on. The other major issue, I guess, that needs to be mentioned now is the Crown's commitment to this. $7 million in upfront capital costs, 35% of the ongoing costs at $2.5 million per annum, the Crown has made available to this project. That's the kind of importance the government believes this issue needs, and I support that entirely. We cannot be a first world trading nation if we do not back up our comments about traceable first world products with technology and with action, and the state is doing that. So that needs to be acknowledged. NATE is effectively an insurance policy to support New Zealand in a uniquely, livestock-based economy, and there is nowhere else in the world that I'm aware of that's as dependent on exports from livestock proteins and fibres as New Zealand is. So we are unique in the world in that regard. And so making sure that that integrity is in place is absolutely at the heart, at the genesis of this notion. And so those that would have been critical of it, as the previous speaker said, because of cost, probably need to bear that in mind when they consider their position on that. The ability in the future to be able to implant a silicon chip, not a tag that can be lost or a tag that has some retention issues, but a chip in a way that it doesn't affect meat processing or other ongoing problems into livestock, farmed livestock, for traceability, is something that I'm confident is going to develop over time. And the developments that will come from that, of course, in terms of livestock handling, genetic certainty about the integrity of records kept, etc., traceability back to the farm of origin, are substantial. And they spin over not only into international market certainty, but also into biosecurity certainty. And we had the example of the Waiheke Island hoax, foot and mouth hoax, which we in New Zealand were found wanting over, absolutely. And I think the lessons learnt from that have, I guess, focused the minds of people that if you're going to be involved in rearing or keeping livestock, even if it's a hobby rather than a commercial enterprise, then you need to be responsible for the record keeping of how many of those particular animals you've got, where they are, and when they're being transported. So, Mr. Speaker, look forward to the passage of this bill. I'm confident it will make good progress through the House. It's good to see the support we've got. I'm not sure that anybody is going to oppose it at this stage, but there may be. And I look forward to the passage of the bill, Mr. Speaker.
Cool. Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It gives me a lot of pleasure to speak on behalf of the Labour Party on this National Animal Identification and Tracing Bill and to express our wholehearted support for the bill because, of course, it assists in underpinning the future and the security of our agriculture.